And I want to introduce to you a process that I intuitively developed over the past 10 years. And I call this process the flowing fears process. It's an embodied process to unhook you from survival stress, release that trapped emotional material, heal soul parts, and embrace your thriving life. The flowing fears process walks you through a profound journey of inner investigation, held in love to release trapped survival emotion, identify limiting core beliefs, and heal soul parts so you can embrace your thriving life. Again, this is an embodied process that walks you through this profound journey of inner investigation. I am repeating myself. That is so funny. Okay, moving on. So the process is broken down into 10 steps. Each step is a standalone experience. Movement to the next step happens organically as the previous step is accomplished. Sometimes we might spend a while on one or two steps before moving further along the inner spiral. I do see this as a spiral of spiraling down and spiraling up. So the down and out. The steps include the need for both physical and psychological safety. And that's kind of what we talked about in video 4, is that the foundational stuff that we need to provide us with the physical and psychological safety to be well-resourced internally and externally, so we can tap into the skill of reflection and the skill of regulation, which I went over. We need those skills foundationally to move towards the next step. If we don't have those skills, then most of our time will be spent on building those skills. So orienting for safety is the term I use for developing or assessing for physical and psychological safety. So we need a supportive space to embody the felt sensations without overwhelm. We need guidance to name the presenting survival emotion. We need to be able to hold space for mindful attuning attention to what is arising within. So we call this mindful attunement. We need guidance for somatic releasing through tears, shaking, movement, sound. So we call that somatic release work. There is a cognitive inquiry process to become aware of and release those limiting beliefs or stressful thoughts or negative cognitions. There's a guided process to connect more deeply with what we call your inner community or your inner soul parts. And all of this closes by using tools of visualization or imagery to set into motion a mind movie of the self that you desire to become. So all of this has been informed by many teachers and different modalities. It's informed by EMDR, for example, somatic experiencing, compassionate inquiry, interpersonal neurobiology, acceptance commitment therapy, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, just to name a few. And some of the teachers that have influenced my work include people like Peter Levine, Van der Kolk, Bonnie Badenoch, Dan Siegel, Doug Tatarin, Jane Symington, Byron Katie, Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza, to name a few, as well as people like Stan Groff and my long-term mentor and teacher, Wapio. My work has also been informed by my spiritual midwifery practices and teachings, and learning how to hold space for transformative experiences in these altered states. So it's important to understand that throughout the process, the facilitator doesn't tell you how to think or feel. Your system is intelligent. It has an inner healing intelligence, and it does this for you. So my role as a coach or a therapist or a guide is to help you learn the process by guiding you through it and holding steady as an anchor. So while you enter the turbulent waters that can show up as emotional material or mental anguish, I become a regulating energy or nervous system that anchors in this possibility for transformation. Typically, this is the material we are resisting, is the material of that emotional discomfort, dysregulation, and or mental anguish that shows up as negative cognitions, dark thoughts, intrusive thoughts. And generally, we don't want to feel what our system is feeling, nor do we want to hear what our mind is saying. Remember at the beginning of this, the first video, I think I talked about the 4 protective patterns. This is when they show up. So we all have protective patterns as a result of this resistance. The key here is that you are not alone in this process, and using the principle of co-regulation, your nervous system will attune to the guide's nervous system, hopefully as a steady, stable, and anchored force of safety. So you can keep going beyond the resistance towards the relief that you seek, which will foster that thriving state. So as someone who has navigated these dark and turbulent inner territories, I can hold this light for you, and I can hold the promise that relief is around the corner. Okay, the process is simple in execution. However, the magic happens when one is willing to face those survival emotions without resistance. When we try to do this work alone, the mind tricks us, and we can only go as far as the mind is willing to let us. Or we try to figure it all out in the head. Analysis. The flowing fears process is not a mental process. It's an embodied process. It is a meditation. So the flowing fears process is informed by the following assumptions. So first of all, following your breath, anchoring in your breath, mindful attention, non-resistance, radical acceptance, to surrender in trust, that we are born to heal, that we are held in love, and that there is a quantum field. So let's take a look at each of these principles further. So to follow your breath. The breath is our friend, and it reminds us that we are here in this moment. By tuning into the breath, we shift from outer experience to an inner experience. Non-resistance. So this is a Buddhist or Eastern philosophy that suggests that resistance itself causes more suffering. So what we're most afraid of, we resist feeling, seeing, or experiencing. With a non-resistant practice, and this principle of allowing what is, we use the breath as our guide so that we can learn to lean into the resistance and hold focused attention until something shifts. That brings us to mindful attention, which is the skill of turning attention inwards, focusing with steady, open curiosity on that which presents or shows up. Holding a steady gaze without looking away or shifting into those protective patterns is mindful attention. And radical acceptance, this is taking a concept from Byron Katie and the principles of the work and loving what is, which is truly about landing in presence and accepting reality as it is presenting itself in this moment. Much of our suffering is a result of resisting what is or what was. Moving on, we're looking at surrendering in trust. this is a hard one for me and for many. However, once there's this radical acceptance and non-resistance to all that is, there is an opportunity to truly surrender and trust to that inner healing intelligence, and that would trusting that what will reveal itself will be supportive to you. This born to heal concept really is about the belief that there is this inner healing intelligence that is deeply interwoven into our biology, and that we understand that humans were an extension of nature itself, and that the nature of both biology and the natural world is designed to heal and thrive. Our biological system wants to thrive. And when we give the right environment, the right ingredients, it will find its way. The concept of being held in love is a knowing and belief that there is universal energy or a mysterious source that is embedded in life itself, in which we call love, and that it is holding you and this process. Love is always present, even if it's not felt. And for that reason, healing is to be experienced, or healing is to experience more love. And finally, the quantum field. This is the energetic field of energy and potential, which tapping into the quantum field opens up the potentiality for healing and transformation to occur. Some of us might understand the quantum field to be the holotropic state. Some of us might understand it to be the transpersonal or the collective unconscious. Some of us might understand it to be the creator or the creative life force out there. This idea that we're tapping into something beyond this everyday reality, beyond the conscious mind, and that we are a part of that field. And we do this by entering an altered state of consciousness, or entering a different brainwave state in which we go beyond the personal biography into the transpersonal realm. Okay, so remember when I spoke about the R's, and the final R being responsibility. So this is the point in which you take action and make a choice. There is no right or wrong choice, but there is a choice. And just like deciding to eat well or to go to the gym to get stronger, it requires a decision and followed by an action. So learning how to embody your thriving state requires both a decision and an action, and it will require training. So at this stage, working with a coach or a therapist is the logical next step. But before you reach out for guided support, it's helpful to get clear on a few key factors. In other words, where are you on your thriving journey? So we're actually going to unpack this and look at these 4 different areas of where you might be on your thriving journey. So now that I've introduced you briefly to the Flowing Fears process, I know I didn't go into detail, but I let you know that this is an embodied process that follows a 10-step system that I've developed over the past 10 years. And it includes things like psychological safety, orienting for safety. It includes deep inquiry. It includes emotional release work. It includes connecting to your inner community and your soul parts and healing relationally to that space of your healing your past parts. And it also includes shifting out of that negative or limiting story or belief system and moving towards, through visualization and imagery, the life that you want to live and what you want to experience more of. Okay. So this is a tool that helps you shift states from survival to thriving. And you might be asking, well, what next? As with any new skill or adventure, it's helpful to identify where are you on this journey so that you can take an informed next step. Based on my therapeutic experience, I've done my best to outline these 4 areas for your own self-assessment. This is not a psychometric tool. This is just for you to kind of gather information. And how I've oriented this is that there are 4 different phases. That first phase could be what we would call crisis or chaos. The second phase is ready to dip my toes in and learn some new skills. The third phase could be that you can access those R's. So you've got good skills and you have a good foundation and you're not afraid to swim in the deep waters. And the fourth phase is that you might be seasoned and skilled as a deep diver, but you're ready for more. So let's look at each of these phases. So this first phase, I call this the survival state. And sometimes, often, this is when people are really reaching out for support because they're in a state of crisis or chaos, otherwise known as a state of survival. So life feels unstable, unsafe, insecure. There's a lot of external factors causing a lot of suffering in your life. There might be unresolved traumas from current circumstances or past circumstances. Again, there's no shame in acknowledging where you are at. So if this is where you're at, we just notice and name it. I've been here myself in the state of crisis and chaos, and I definitely go in and out of it. And it took a sobering reality check for me to realize that I needed help. And once I acknowledged that my current state of suffering and survival was negatively impacting my life, I sought the support that I needed and worked towards creating safety and stability first and foremost. So we need that foundation of enough safety and stability before we can even begin to dip our toes into those emotional waters. So in this phase of survival, what does therapy or support look like for you? Most talk therapy and social work helps people who are in a period of crisis and chaos. The focus is to keep you safe and help you make changes in your life that will support this foundational need of safety and security. Typically at this phase, most of the attention is external. So modalities such as solution-focused therapy, crisis management, including an introduction to new skills through cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectic behavioral therapy, are supportive for this current phase. But generally speaking, when we're in this state, we're looking for a lot of physical supports maybe to help us actually get out of that chaos and crisis so we can do the deeper healing work. So next phase, I call this curious. So the curious phase is ready to dip my toe in. And this is, we have physical security and safety, but we're tired of the same life patterns and we're ready to address those life stressors and unresolved traumas from our past. At this stage, you feel a sense of impatience with your current situation and you want to learn some foundational skills to take charge of your life. And you want to shift from autopilot, remember I talked about the holding patterns, to being in that driver's seat. Again, what does support look like at this phase? So this might look like traditional therapy with a strong focus on skill development, using different modalities such as mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, dialectic behavioral therapy, acceptance commitment therapy, just to name a few. These are very skill-oriented therapeutic modalities. Also coaching programs that focus on inquiry or belief reprogramming, such as like Byron Katie's work or Psych K, for example, could be really supportive at this phase. Moving on, we've got the skilled phase. So phase 3, we're ready to swim in the deep waters. So you've learned the skills of reflection and regulation, you've been practicing using them, maybe you've gone to therapy and you've already kind of built up some of those foundational skills that I've talked about. And you know that you have unresolved survival emotions that are ready to be metabolized, and you're looking to go deeper and begin to practice shifting states. So at this stage, you might feel stuck with your skill development and are looking for more guidance to explore the deeper waters with a skilled guide. You know how to regulate and reflect. You have a solid resource toolbox. However, you find yourself stuck in those holding patterns of survival stress because you don't know what to do with your skills. So you're looking to embody the skills at a deeper level and use them when the waters are rough. So what does support look like at this phase? So this would be very experiential or embodied therapy or coaching that includes somatic releasing, mindfulness skills, skill development, such as what we've already talked about, ACT, but you might now move towards somatic experiencing, EMDR, interfamily systems, IFS, as well as emotional freedom technique or emotionally focused therapy, focusing therapy, and polyvagal therapy. And my flowing fears would be a great introduction here. Now we move on to the final phase, which is that you're competent. You're a seasoned deep diver. So you've got lots of experience with different healing practices. You've been working with your historical traumas or your past sufferings for a while now. You're not afraid to feel the survival emotion of anger, fear, or grief. And sometimes you can get stuck in them or they can wash over you, but you know it is passing. So at this stage, you're looking for a guide who can help you break free from those stuck patterns of survival stress that are still showing up because that's life. And you see the pattern, you understand the bigger picture, but you find yourself looping in this continuous holding pattern. So you're ready to step into a new version of yourself and need the extra support to help you get there. So no different than anyone wanting to peak perform in life, and you're searching for that next level coach that can help them reach their goals. So what does therapeutic support or coaching support look like at this phase? Well, at this phase, you're looking for transformational coaching or programs that are stretching you beyond your comfort zone and pushing you to face that which is still standing in the way, which usually, by the way, is our ego mind or our blind spots or some undigested emotional material from our past. So, for example, the flowing fears process comes in here as an excellent tool and skill that you could engage with. And also things like Joe Dispenza's retreats or Byron Katie's workshops or plant medicine retreats or reality transurfing or, dark retreats where it's just all blacked out or silent retreats. So we start to look at some of those more spiritual retreats that are going to help us get to that next level that we're looking to experience more of, which generally speaking is more love and more time spent in that thriving state. So remember that we can ebb and flow between these different stages. They're not set in stone, nor is our thriving journey linear. Each phase deserves attention and consideration. Each are met differently. To shift out of surviving and step into thriving, first we need to acknowledge if there are any actual immediate threats that need tending to. In other words, are we in crisis and chaos, and do we need to put out the fire? From there, we can build the skill set needed to support the experiential and embodied release work. So let's take a moment and consider what I just presented. And I invite you to jot down or make a mental note of where you think you are at. Okay, so hopefully you have a sense of where you might be at on your healing journey or your thriving journey out of those 4 areas that I just highlighted. And we're about to close. So if you loved what you heard in this video series and you want to get started, there's a few different paths you can take. If you self-identify as skilled or competent deep diver and you want to engage with the Flowing Fears process and learn more about it, you can apply to work one-on-one with me, or you can pre-register for a in-person, crossing fingers, 7-day event. And if you're new to learning the skills of regulation and reflection, and you want to begin your healing journey, you're invited to book an intake call with one of our therapists to build those foundational skills outlined throughout this presentation. Or you can register for a foundational skills event. Also, you will receive a follow-up email after this event that will include links to your bonus materials, along with all the different ways you can get started on your thriving journey.